Hello, everyone, and welcome to a lovely Waiver Wire Tuesday. This is Sideline Banter. I am Sam Holt, joined by my co-host Derek Tate. Derek, how are you on this lovely day?
Well, there were so many quarterback injuries in week number 2 that former high school quarterback, which is myself, I feel like I injured myself reaching for some spices on the top shelf, and I'm questionable for next week's podcast. But I'm here. I'm gutting it out because it's a playoff scenario here in week 3 with all these injuries.
I mean, much like your Bucs quarterback, Baker Mayfield, you've got that dog in you. So you're here to perform. And I appreciate you just standing up and making sure that you get it done for us this week. Everyone in the chat, if you guys have any questions, waiver wire questions, lineup questions, like we said, we're going to be talking a lot about quarterbacks today because there are so many injuries and so many streaming options. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat and we will break it over to you. But want to say a big thank you to Women of Fantasy Football for having us on their channel. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already to the channel over on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts, so you don't miss an episode of Sideline Banter and all the other amazing content that they have out there for you. So without further ado, let's talk about some injury news, because you brought it up. I know you said you're injured. Hope that you feel better soon, Tate, but we've got lots of other quarterbacks that we need to cover for the amazing listeners and viewers as they tune in right now. First off, we have to talk about Joe Burrow, out for at least 3 months, will need surgery on that little toe of his. Absolutely brutal to see him be out. I mean, it feels like, when do we not have a year where Joe Burrow has dealt with something wild and crazy, whether it be preseason, in season, aside from, the year where they ran into the Super Bowl. When can this guy catch a break? And when will the Bengals get an offensive line that can protect him?
So when you're watching Joe Burrow go against the Jags, and we know the Jags secondary had all kinds of issues, we were expecting a big game. We got one from Jamar Chase. The only problem is now it's Joe Burrow Schnikes. Burrow, no, get it? Anyway, point of the matter, it really changes the outlook for what we expected to be a top 5 scoring offense all year, Sam, and I don't know how you can't move T. Higgins down a little bit and how you can't maybe lower the floor, even though the usage is outstanding for Chase Brown. But is this offense going to go to the red zone as many times as we expected without Joe Burrow under center? I think the answer is no. Still a high-volume player, still a running back 2 play, but I no longer see the path to him having top 5 upside in fantasy in 2025.
So, sorry, you say you don't see Joe Burrow having top 5 fantasy outcome for
Chase Brown.
Chase Brown. Yes, Chase Brown. Okay. No, I agree. I think that makes sense, because in terms of how this offense is going to function without Joe Burrow, I mean, they're going to be playing from behind. We were going to talk about Jake Browning a bit later when we get further into the waiver wire segment. And, we're going to find out just how quarterback proof Jamar Chase really is. I mean, spoiler alert, I feel like he's going to be. But at the same time, how early and often are they going to be in the red zone in a scoring position? To your point, I don't know that I have that confidence. Totally agree. I have confidence in the volume because of that playing from behind, and they don't have a very easy stretch of games coming up for them. So to me, I'm a little bit nervous, but we've still got plenty of other injuries to cover. And like I said, we'll cover Jake Browning in the waiver wire segment. So stay tuned for that. But let's talk about Justin Fields dealing with a concussion. Absolutely brutal there for the Jets. He was looking decent, I feel like, to start the season off, and not really the way that you want him to continue on. But at least with this protocol, he's more likely than not going to come back the following week.
Well, you say decent. I don't think he's looked decent in week number 2, and I understand hopefully he's going to be okay. But boy, the Buffalo Bills defense certainly made the Jets offense look how we kind of worried it would look through the air. I mean, before Fields got hurt, 3 of 11, Sam, for 27 yards through the air. And that was a Buffalo defense that got absolutely torched on all levels by the Baltimore Ravens in week number 1. So obviously you're not going to, we hope Fields is okay. I don't think his starting role is in any sort of jeopardy. I imagine if he's ready to go for this matchup against the Buccaneers, he will play. But we'll just obviously got to keep an eye on the concussion protocol and see if he is able to take the practice field this week.
Yes. Wendy chiming in the comments, decent LOL. Yeah, I try to stay positive. It's still week 2. I want to be optimistic, especially for someone like Fields that I have plenty of shares of in Superflex formats because I love the rushing upside. So I'm trying to stay positive. Somehow still, even despite all these injuries, I'm trying to stay positive. But we're not done with this list. We got to talk about JJ McCarthy dealing with an ankle injury, going to be out definitely this coming week, and possibly a couple more. Not really excited about that. In terms of who's going to be under center, it's Carson Wentz right now. There were rumors and tweets going back and forth about Kirk Cousins coming back to the team, but I mean, I don't know that it's an injury that's that desperate for the Vikings right now.
Well, they signed Carson Wentz for a reason. And we'll see if Kevin O'Connell has the magic touch to, misfit quarterbacks that somehow wind up on his roster. The point of the matter being, though, Justin Jefferson will have. You're still starting him if you have him. You have to, unless it just continues to look bad there offensively, which I think Carson Wentz is a capable veteran. And it's more so the offensive line that's kind of concerning me about the Minnesota Vikings without Christian Darrisaw. Sure. That is making me certainly nervous. I didn't even see McCarthy get hurt. He didn't look like he was laboring to me at all on that ankle. So it's kind of surprising to me that it came out that he has a high ankle sprain. And then Aaron Jones, Sam.
Yeah.
Opens the door for Jordan Mason.
I mean, I feel like there was a lot of talk this preseason in terms of buying in on Jordan Mason early. And I feel like if you are one of those truthers, maybe someone that listened to my good friend Kendall Valenzuela, because she was in my ear constantly this preseason about how Aaron Jones is past and Jordan Mason is the future. So she's absolutely reining those in. So you better be listening to her amazing content. But that being said, I definitely feel grateful for the shares I managed to get in the leagues that I'm not drafting with Kendall, because I did manage to get a couple of him and I'm pretty excited about that. It just sucks though, because I feel like there's always at least 1 or 2 weeks or something pops up hamstring related for Aaron Jones over the years, and just not something that you want to see someone sidelined with. But
yeah, we saw him play the full 17 game slate last year, but 2 seasons ago in his last year in Green Bay, he had that nagging hamstring injury that basically wrecked his entire 2023 campaign. So, I mean, Mason, if they don't get this offense moving in out of complete neutral, then I don't know what the upside is. Sure, I'm fine with starting him this week as a running back too, but we got to see a little bit more production from this passing game.
No, we've got to see something. I mean, something's going to break, and hopefully, like I said, McCarthy can come back early. It was interesting to see him pop up with this level injury, but watching that game, he was getting tripped up quite a bit and taking several very interesting hits. So it does make sense because he was getting tangled up quite a bit, but I agree. It wasn't a single hit that you were like, oh, that's the ankle. We're going to see that later this week. But that's what we get with mobile quarterbacks. And with that, I want to jump to Jayden Daniels because we've got tons of questions in the chat. So I want to get to this last injury before we jump to those. Guys, I see you. We'll get to all of those. Jayden Daniels dealing with a knee injury and issue. Man, talking about someone that is mobile and getting tangled up. He kept getting hit and bent awkwardly multiple times across, the lower body. And I'm not shocked by this injury at all, just based on the types of hits he was taking, again, because of his agility. So my question to you, and I guess something going forward with where fantasy managers have him going into this season, you wanted him for his agility, dealing with something like a knee injury. What does this do for you rest of season, when he does manage to get it back? Are you concerned? Because I feel like Washington's going to want to be conservative with his play.
Well, when we saw last year that his ribs were compromised, right? He had a bruised rib, and
do you need those to run though?
What's that?
Do you need your ribs to run? I don't know. I'm just asking.
I mean, it's painful, but it is something that I guess is manageable. It's definitely painful, and you don't want to take shots of the ribs. Fine. But I mean, his knee, you did see him kind of get rolled up on, or a hip drop tackle. And he looked, I mean, God bless him. He is a tough kid and he battled through it. But I do think it's something that could certainly limit his upside as a rusher, which is what I believe makes him a cheat code in fantasy, is when he is able to run like Lamar Jackson. And of course, he can give you his contributions through the air. So I do think it limits his ceiling, even if he doesn't miss any time. So just be very weary. I would just temper those expectations for Jayden Daniels being a top 5 fantasy option. I think this kind of moves him towards the bottom of that QB1 tier until we see his knee start to get healthier.
Gosh, I hope he gets healthy soon because I do love me some Jayden Daniels. All right, that kind of wraps up and ties up on our injuries really quick. I want to get to all of these questions because you guys have so many in the chat today, so we will get to them right off the bat. Scrolling to the top, Mark H, I got you. Chase Brown or Mason in PPR flex. Given that we just talked about both of these quarterback situations, I think this is a fantastic one to start us off with, going Chase Brown or Jordan Mason. I think based on how I'm feeling with seeing them and kind of the game script that you laid out for us there for the Bengals, I'm leaning Jordan Mason between these two. But is that too spicy too early?
I would much rather go with Jordan Mason in this matchup because they're facing off against each other. And I still trust the Vikings defense. I don't really trust the Bengals defense. So I'll lean Mason with Aaron Jones on IR.
Yeah, I think that's the move too. All right, this one from Lil Tay DeRock. In a bad situation, do I start Tootin over Pacheco? Ooh, that is an interesting situation. How do you feel about Tootin?
Lil Tay DeRock, come on. I want to so badly cut a Rock promo here. I know, roll your eyes. And you can go ahead and say I hate you again, but love, with affection.
I do, affectionately.
I'm going to start Pacheco. I get it. Tootin looked super explosive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm encouraged by the fact they traded Tank Bigsby, and then you immediately saw an expanded role for the rookie, and he paid off basically Liam Cohen's trust in those situations where he got him the football. Very, very, very encouraged long term. But we're looking at the Jags facing off against the Houston Texans defense that I still think is a pretty formidable unit. I know that the Bucs had some success rushing the football, which was a little bit surprising, but I'm not going to go over Pacheco. It's a must-win game for the Kansas City Chiefs in week number 3 against the New York Giants, where primetime game. I understand why Patrick Mahomes is primetime. New York Giants, I don't know, but hey, number 1 market in the world, I suppose. So I will go Pacheco over Tootin this week.
Yeah, I could see that too. I think considering the bounce back is almost inevitable, and given the matchup against the Giants that are also 0-2, between the two teams, who do I see, making the win between them? I would be shocked to my core if the Giants got the win over the Chiefs. Again, just because it is primetime Mahomes, and you're going to probably see multiple people get used. Pacheco being one of them. So I do like him a lot in this matchup. Let's go to this one from GITG. So just submitted all my waivers, dropping T-Law for Mac Jones, stack with CMC, dropping Cardinals defense for Falcons, picking up Danny Dimes, and dropping Ingram for Troy Franklin. So no real question here, but I would love to get your take because I do feel like we're going to be talking quite a bit about Troy Franklin. And for me, I'm a little bit nervous about Mac Jones because it is just a stopgap between now and when Purdy comes back. We do feel like we have a timeline for him. So how do you feel about dropping someone like T-Law for Mac Jones right now?
I don't like that. I personally, obviously, if you have a great feeling about Mac Jones, there's a ceiling though with Mac Jones.
Yeah.
It's on. There's a runway that's going to end very, very, very soon in the near future, unless something's going on with Purdy's injuries that they're more serious than what we believe at this time. So, Trevor Lawrence, for whatever you want to say, Sam, he did throw 3 touchdown passes against Cincinnati, so it wasn't all bad. You're disappointed with the turnovers again and them giving away the game, but that's a different story for another day for the Jags. But I just think that Mac Jones, while yes, it was a nice fantasy performance, it did come against the New Orleans Saints, and Mac Jones is going to be back on the bench in maybe a max of a month. So I'm not dropping him on the first portion of that.
Yeah, well, they also said that they picked up Danny Dimes, which I feel like he needs a new nickname because that was his New York nickname, and he needs something a bit better for how well he's performing with the Colts. But then adding on to that, dropping Ingram for Troy Franklin, I think I love the drop of Ingram for Franklin there, just because of the volume that Franklin is seeing. He's really shaping up, wide receiver 3 consistency to the ceiling of wide receiver 2. Like, he's just got an amazing volume right now.
How about Danny? We don't need a punter Jones. They haven't punted in 2 games with Daniel Jones at quarterback. That's insane to me.
Wait, I want to run this one by you because I heard it earlier in the week. Indiana Jones.
That's good.
It's good, right? I didn't come up with that. I heard it somewhere, but I thought that was pretty good. And I knew you'd like that one. All right, this one from Adam. Saquon Barkley was just added to waivers in my guillotine league. How much fab should I use to try and get him? $750 budget. Thank you. I mean, for Saquon in a guillotine league, I would spend a lot. And again, it just depends on the rest of your roster and how you feel like you might want to pad other positions. But I would make a very healthy offer. And I'm weird. I don't know how you like to spend your fab. I like to do a random number that's just going to help me get, it's like the Price is Right numbers that I tend to use for fab. So I'll do like $501. It's like something that just edges me over someone else's bid. But I feel like you want to spend that money for Saquon because other people are going to do that too.
Yeah, ChatGPT may give you a more fiscally responsible answer than what I'm going to give you is probably throwing at least $300 at him, if not $400. I understand it's for the entire way, but once you have Saquon on your team, he's on your team. So
yeah, that's my same thought. I mean, I would go as spicy as like 450 or something. It just depends on, again, the rest of your roster and how confident you feel in your other positions. If you're also hurting at running back, this is an amazing spend. You've got to spend to pad your roster for guillotine. So personally, that's where I'm leaning. I saw a couple more questions that I want to get to before we jump into the more waiver wire talk. But this one from South C77, would you drop Fields or Penix for Daniel Jones or hold fast? Yes, I would drop both of them for Daniel Jones again, because he has just been so consistent. And what's amazing about how his performance has been, the entire team is in sync in week 2. That is something that I wouldn't have felt confident saying about the Colts this time last year. There is a different switch that it's been thrown. That organization has a lot of belief in Daniel Jones. They have a lot of belief in each other, and it's just very consistent across the board on different things. I just am too excited about him going into the rest of the season to not drop someone like Fields. We just talked about dealing with a concussion. Penix, yes, he has Bijan, but Jones is just, he's on a heater. And to quote The Hangover, you never walk away from the table when you're on a heater.
The way I'm looking at it is Daniel Jones and Justin Fields. Who do we have more confidence is going to be a consistently better offense throughout the season? To me, it's not even really a question. It's a rhetorical question for me. It's the Colts.
Yeah.
And Jones has been sacked twice through the first 2 games, including just once against Sam. I believe the Denver Broncos are still going to be one of the better defenses in the NFL.
If they're going to be brutal.
Elite group. And Jones had a ton of success. So I just have a feeling that this is, the Sam Darnold of last season with Daniel Jones in Indianapolis. He is running Shane Steichen's system, looks comfortable, and this is the best we've ever seen Daniel Jones look, I think, in his NFL career. And I'd like him more than the other 2 players, even though I still see the path for both of them. But I see Daniel Jones as a top 12 fantasy quarterback at this time.
I agree. And, I think there can be an argument said that there might be game scripts that lean more Jonathan Taylor friendly than Daniel Jones friendly. But just looking at even his usage, last week, he got 2 catches and one of those was for a touchdown. You're still getting those points. So I still feel like there's potential for Daniel Jones to have himself a decent day, a decent turnout, even in a game script that might lean more Jonathan Taylor friendly, just because he's able to get him the ball.
He's got 3 rushing touchdowns too through the first 3 weeks or the first 2 games. It's insane.
You're not mad about that. Not mad about that. Wild. All right. I did not lose my notes. We're here. Okay. Going back to, let me see. Did I get all the questions? Okay. We've got a couple from Discord. Love the Discord listeners. So I want to make sure we get these, and then we'll jump right back into waiver wire. I promise. This is just awesome to have such a volume of questions. So appreciate you all. All right. This one from J Cup, half point PPR 12 team, 1 QB, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 2 flex, can be tight end. I appreciate when questions are this detailed because it helps so much. Continuing on. They have Fields, Chase Brown, Pollard, Lamb, JSN, Bowers, Odunze, Bill, Packers kicker, Packers defense. Love the Packers defense for you. And the bench is McCarthy, Sampson, Caleb Johnson, Golden, and Juwan. And they want to know that go Wandale or Franklin. I'm guessing to start this week and while they're setting their lineup. So I'm going to click back to the rest of their roster while we consider Wandale Robinson or Franklin going into this one.
So With you having Lamb, Jason, and Odunze, I would rather take the home run swing on Franklin, because if he does emerge as the surprise number one receiver there in Denver, which the usage has been very, very, very encouraging through the first 2 games, including last week against Indianapolis, I just don't think it's necessarily sustainable for Wan'Dale Robinson, whether it's Russell Wilson or Jackson Dart eventually getting under center at some point during this season.
Sure.
So
it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
He's already flirting with it. I mean, Russell Wilson had his best game in like
Who isn't flirting with Jackson Dart? I mean, come on, get in line.
Well, Brian Daboll feels the same way. So, yeah, let's go ahead. And I'm going to go Troy Franklin.
Troy Franklin, I agree. I think between the two, I do like Wan'Dale. He had a lot of amazing usage going to this past week. You know, I feel like what I should do, because I have him in a dynasty league, that whenever I bench him, he goes off. So I should just make an announcement on X when I'm benching him, because then everyone else can know he's going to have a big week. You know, whatever I can do to help the people. But then let's see. Jacob has on waivers, no fab, but priority in order, dropping Caleb Johnson for Tootin, Sampson for Troy Franklin, McCarthy for Daniel Jones, Fields for Drake May.
I'm okay with it. In particular, it's wild that you're already dropping Caleb Johnson, but
I know,
but you have to.
There's a lot of panic mode in a lot of these rookie running backs coming into this season at a rate and a level of consistency that's absolutely insane. I mean, the low production for Jeanty, for Omarion, Hampton, for Caleb Johnson, it's pretty insane. And part of me feels like it's early, but because of the poor performance and such a tough stretch of games to begin the season, there's still going to be plenty of injuries coming the rest of the year. And I don't want to put them into existence, but at the same time, maybe we can get them later, but you kind of want to ride the hot hand right now, at least to me, given the usage, given the trade specifically with the Tootin situation. I have more confidence in that and immediate usage. Sampson for Troy Franklin, love that. And again, Daniel Jones is just getting that crazy usage. So him and Drake May, I'm not mad at any of those in terms of how they're set up.
Yeah.
Let's jump. Let's see. Oh, go ahead.
What are we jumping to next? I did see real quick, like Andrea said, pick up Daniel Jones or Jordan Love. I'm going to go Daniel Jones. Quincy Davis said, would you drop Harvey for Bill Krosky Merritt? Yes, I would. That makes me sad. I'd try to find somebody else to drop other than RJ Harvey, but you know, if just that question, I'll go with Bill. And that's all I see for right now. So what's next on the docket?
Let's see. This one from Mark Hollinger, loaded at wide receiver PPR, have JSN, Egbuka, Pearsall, Pickens, and JMO going to start JSN every week. Yes. And then play matchups. I think that's the right move. Leaning Pickens this week versus the Bears. Any tips on how to attack this all year? I kind of like the idea of streaming the rest of these and going with the hot hand, although I do love Egbuka. I know you do too. So part of me wants to see you making sure that you're getting him into your roster as much as possible.
Yeah, I would consider, though, with both Egbuka and Ricky Pearsall, the possibility of trying to offload them at some point, because both of those receiver rooms could have big-time contributors returning, with Brandon Ayuk for the 49ers and Chris Godwin for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So consider maybe offloading one of them in a package deal or something like that to maybe, tier up, so to say. But at this time, you're in a great position.
Yeah, no. And so your tip is basically take some of these options and use them as sell highs early, because to Tate's point, they're likely going to get into a much more crowded wide receiver room. I agree and love that. I'll do one more and then we'll get straight back into waivers. This one, I traded Nico for London and Javonte Williams. Did I mess up, or did I make the right choice? Well, since you already pulled the plug, I hope that we're going to give you the right advice here. Traded Nico for London and Javonte Williams.
Stamp of approval. Well done. Hell yeah.
You did it.
You got London and Javonte for Nico Collins? Hell yeah.
I think that whenever you're on the winning side of a trade, that you get two players for one, especially one that's underperforming the way that Nico is, not mad about it.
Well, how far are you really tearing down from Nico to London? I understand London's off to a little bit of a slow start, but you got Javonte Williams, who right now is a top 10 fantasy back. So yeah, I'm fine barely tearing down and getting another starting caliber player.
Yeah, no, absolutely love that. All right, let's quickly just do a tiny recap of Monday Night Football because it's going to end up going straight into waivers again because we talked about so many injuries. But I want to give you your little soapbox so you can stand on the Bucs win and how, like I said, to start off this episode, Baker's got that dog in him. That clip of him going down, looking hobbled, and then someone coming over and was it Gardner, CJ Gardner that came over and started talking trash and then immediately popped up and just like barked right back in his face. There's just something about Baker that's really fun to root for. So little tiny claps for you and your Bucs. But how was that watching that game for you?
I lost a couple years off my life, and I think a couple more gray hairs are probably somewhere around here. But I did love the fact that Baker got up John at CJ Gardner Johnson.
Yeah,
I'm so thoroughly impressed with the Buccaneers. Not only were they already down Tristan Wirfs, not only were they already playing a center at left tackle, and you're facing off against possibly the best edge rushing duo in the league, but you also lost your other right tackle, Luke Gedeke, and you had to put in Charlie Heck, and boy, he did a heck of a job. I understand that they still got a combined 3 sacks between Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. I don't care. You managed to still be able to run the ball, Sam, both Bucky Irving and Rashad White. And then they also lost on the defensive side of the ball, Kalijah Kancey, who is one of the better interior pass rushers in the NFL. And they still were able to apply some pressure with Todd Bowles and scheming up a couple defensive blitzes and, big third down situations, and slowed down a CJ Stroud that got off to a great start. So just major tip of the hat to the Buccaneers. Super excited they're 2-0.
I'm stoked to see them 2-0 because I have so many different Bucs on different fantasy teams, and I need this volume and this train to continue going. So you got me cheering for you as well. And Wendy as well, who, according to Wendy, she wants to marry Mike Evans, but the only problem is her husband and his wife. Small snag in her plan. It happens to the best of us, Wendy. I feel like there's always just some sort of obstacle in our way from happiness, but we can dream.
I saw him doing this after a couple first downs. There weren't many against Derek Stingley Jr., but hey, I'll take it. It was a team win. Again, Baker Mayfield, man. Go Bucs, fire the cannons. Let's go, Sam. Sorry about your Steelers this week.
We'll talk about it later. But I think the main takeaway for me about this game, really disappointed in the Texans. And yes, I love rooting for Nick Chubb, especially coming off the injury. I want this guy. He's such an amazing athlete. I want to see him get his dues. And it was nice to see him get the rushing touchdown in this one. But this run game was a struggle for the Texans. There was a lot offensively. There's a lot of pieces that need to, start lining up. Talking about earlier, I said how in sync the Colts felt. The Texans do not feel in sync after watching last night's game. So to me, I am very nervous. We answered a question earlier about trading away Nico Collins. I'm down for trading away some of these Texan players because I kind of want no part until they start figuring it out.
I do want to exercise a little bit of patience, even though CJ Stroud had some weird misses, and he got away, by the way, Sam, with a gimme interception that would have taken points off the board with Levante David dropping one. So I actually thought the offensive line in pass pro did fairly better than they did against the Rams. It was really the Bucs had to blitz and be able to get home to him, really. But yeah, the run game, there's not a whole lot there right now. And I know Chubb, had the 25-yard touchdown run at the very end of the fourth quarter. But yeah, 12 carries for 43 yards and a score with that long run there at the very end. Otherwise, it would have been a pretty disappointing rushing performance. So they just don't have a lot on the ground right now. Their defense is still very, very talented. And I expect better days because they did lose 2 close games to 2 teams that were in the playoffs last year, Sam. So I'm not going to, I don't want to wave the white flag quite yet, in particular in that division where, the Colts are off to a great start, but they really could have lost that game to the Broncos, and the Jags invent ways to lose.
That they do. They're really creative in that way. But let's talk about the other game because I feel like your Bucs game was the game of the night, and I didn't need to watch this Chargers-Raiders game, but we all had to, at least those that stayed awake, in order to enjoy it, watch it. My big takeaway is I think that when a player shows signs of an injury, and this is a Brock Bowers rant, and they're such a pivotal playmaker for your team. Just sit them out. Don't give us hope and say Brock Bowers is active for tonight so that I have to start him and watch points barely trickle in and just lose in tears because I could have started someone else. Just why?
I understand your frustration.
I was so mad. I was just like, hate watching the game at some point because I'm just like, oh, a catch? Bet it's not to Bowers. Nope. Shocking. Like, I was just getting really, really spicy about it, sitting alone at home and talking to the TV by myself. But like, I'm very frustrated by this Raiders offense because we've talked a lot about Bowers in this offseason, so a lot of upside. Don't want to see him hampered by an injury, but also I don't want to see him just, wheeled out there on a gurney saying, we're just going to throw you downfield and maybe you're going to catch he didn't look good. He looked really like he was struggling. And that's what makes me nervous and makes me want coaching staff and, teams to just do better at not putting hobbled players on the field where one wrong hit is just going to take them out for the rest of the season.
I understand where you're coming from. I still believe in Brock Bowers. I believe that he's going to be able to get healthy. If he's able to play this week, then hopefully, the fact that we didn't hear anything that he suffered any sort of significant setback, hopefully he'll kind of be back up to 100% within the next couple of weeks. But yeah, maybe in the next 2 weeks or so, maybe I would, push him around that tight end 5 to 10 range. Maybe he just doesn't have that tight end 1 overall upside, because there was a couple of receptions, Sam, underneath where normally you see Brock Bowers, who is the best yak threat
athletic
at the position. He didn't have that extra juice. He didn't have the extra gear. And that's what makes Brock Bowers special in an offense that really isn't going to generate a ton of scoring opportunities without him playing at a high level.
Yeah. I want to get to waivers, and we've got so many more questions in the chat. So I just want to talk about 2 players before we finish wrapping up this Monday night recap of the games. But I want to talk about, like we mentioned earlier, these 2 rookie running backs, Omarion Hampton and Ashton Jeanty. I mean, I don't want to panic too early about certain things, but I'm nervous. Palms are sweaty, not happy about how many. I have one team where I have both, and I was starting both. And I think I'm most nervous about that one because it is looking brutal. And I don't know how patient I can continue to be with both of them, at least at the helm of that one league.
Well, one thing that we're seeing the Los Angeles Chargers do that we didn't really project is they're starting to throw the ball quite a bit more, Sam. They know what they have in Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. And despite not having Rashawn Slater, they did a really good job on Max Crosby yesterday, and they did a great job against the Chiefs defensive line in week number 1. Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, and Quentin Johnston, they all look really, really good. And if the running game is going to continue to struggle, then Omarion Hampton his ceiling is going to drop, because Najee Harris, Sam, went from 2 total touches in week number 1 to 10 in week number 2. And that late fourth quarter fumble on the exchange between Herbert and Hampton, that does not help matters, because that could have, against an offense that had any sort of a pulse, that could have gotten the Raiders back in the football game. So I'm more worried about Hampton than I am about Jeanty. Although I like the Chargers offense more, I could see a path where now Najee Harris is getting far more run than we would like to see.
I love that we're seeing the Chargers throw more than we were expecting, because I think obviously we all figured when Harbaugh was going to be taking the helm here, it was going to be a run first, and they were going to be squandering the talent that is Justin Herbert. I am very pleasantly surprised to see it's the opposite. However, the number of Ladd McConkey and Justin Herbert stacks I have is quite high. And considering that the volume is going to the likes of Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston is beyond me. And funny enough, I wrote an article last year about Quentin Johnston, and I was high on him. This was like an article I wrote to try and get an additional, fantasy job writing somewhere. And I didn't get it. And part of me was like, is it because I went too high on Quentin Johnston? And they're like, absolutely not. Well, I feel like I'm justified now because what I said last year is 1,000% true now in terms of him being a massive red zone threat, having opportunities, and if he can just tidy up the drops, he can be an instant playmaker. I want my flowers now.
I'll give you your flowers.
Thank
I know
you.
you believed in him. I actually was
I did.
really concerned about him heading into
Last
this
year.
year. And but no, Sam, you can go ahead and victory lap. Just just say that you copy and pasted the take, and just update the article if you wrote an article. Just make sure it has 2025 on the stamp instead of 2024.
I probably will because I'm still that spicy about it. But okay, we're still panicked. So to Tybo on that, we're panicked about Jeanty and about Hampton, but we're not panicked about the passing offense. It's just a matter of starting them in the right matchup for the Chargers. Lots of panic about the Raiders, but when are we not worried about them? So let me go ahead and just jump over to some of these questions before we jump further into this waiver wire and probably hype up Daniel Jones much more than he really needs. But it's on our list. So this one from Christian. Hey, y'all, would you trade Egbuka away for BTJ in a full PPR league? I know. I saw this and I was like, I can't wait to see your reaction. They have Baker, Evans, and Godwin in IR as well. Feel like team 2 Bucs heavy. I mean, you're completely biased and should absolutely be the one to answer this question. Can you have too heavy of a Bucs roster in fantasy? A. 2, would you trade Egbuka away for BTJ right now? I wouldn't, but we did mention how this could be a crowded wide receiver room later. And you also said you need to be patient with the Jags. So how do you feel? This is really like one of those questions that ties like a loop between everything we've been talking about. It's just like, where do you really stand?
Well, it's not as much about trading Egbuka away.
Okay.
Because even when Godwin gets back on the field, I kind of see a path where Godwin's maybe going to be eased in, right? Because I don't think he's going to, immediately start playing 80% of the offensive snaps.
Very fair. Coming back from the injury that he's dealing with as well, I think that's something to completely keep in mind.
Now, it came out that Brian Thomas Jr. was dealing with a wrist injury. Mm-hmm. Sam, I think he saw 12 targets in week number 2. Mm-hmm. Against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I can believe
there were plenty of red zone, end zone targets, and you could see that he was clearly shying away from contact. And
didn't like that.
I personally don't like narratives. Well, he throws a hospital ball. You know what? Your job as a wide receiver is to go catch the football.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just one occasion, Sam, or anything like that. There were probably about 4 or 5 targets, it felt like, just looking at it, where he's more concerned about who's going to hit him rather than securing the catch. And it just so happened that on the drop on 4th and 5 that could have potentially sealed the game for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Brian Thomas Jr. drops it, and it's because he took his eyes off the ball and he's already looking to either get upfield, but I think it was also because he knows he's going to get hit. And I cannot, Sam, that is
nervous energy,
a major pet peeve of mine. Mm-hmm. For an NFL wide receiver that's supposed to be the alpha.
Sure.
And it's one game. But that's enough to concern me because of the injury that came up.
Sure.
That I'm not going to trade Egbuka right now for an injured player that's, played very poorly, shied away from contact in a collision sport. I'm going to keep Egbuka right now.
Here's the other thing too with this. It is week 2. We are high on the Bucs going into this next matchup going forward. I think that you can still get, I don't think that Egbuka's value is going to drop off a cliff anytime soon. So this to me is like a wait and see. To your point with BTJ dealing with this potential wrist injury, I do know you need your wrists as a part of your hands to catch a ball. So I feel like that is important. Just a tiny detail there. So to me, this feels like a wait and see. And depending on how other managers in your league are valuing their receivers, you could definitely still sell high on Egbuka later, but this might just be one where you put a pin in it and, just bait whatever fantasy manager you're dealing with BTJ, but also see what the market is, because to your same point, yes, Godwin's going to be eased in later, but as well, you don't want to leave yourself, up a river without a paddle kind of a situation if you end up with someone like BTJ. And if this injury ends up getting worse, gets hit again, something comes up, you don't want to then say, alas, I had Ibuka, now I don't.
The talent plus volume makes sense for a buy low for Brian Thomas Jr. The injury and that performance made me nervous enough to where I'm not going to trade away Ibuka, who's just simply been too good through the first 2 weeks. Even with Godwin coming back and you being a little bit Bucs heavy, I'm gonna roll with Ibuka in this scenario. I don't want to trade for an injured player who has been disappointing through the first 2 games.
Definitely. All right, a couple more questions, and then we'll jump right into those waivers.
I was way more emotional about that Brian Thomas Jr. question than I thought.
You were definitely going through some feels, and I'm glad that we talked you through that. I hope that ended up being helpful for you, Christian, over there on YouTube with that question. This one from Goodnight Julian over on Discord. My running back room is CMC, Hampton, Mason, Montgomery, and Judkins. I feel like adding Williams will improve my team. I feel like you're hoarding running backs in your league, and your league might not like you. But I do appreciate this depth at the position, especially like we mentioned with Hampton not doing well to start the season. And you've got the upside of Mason. You've got the depth of Montgomery, who, again, I feel like is going to be better later in the season. And Judkins is starting to come up too. So do they just go ahead and round it out and just say add one more with Williams?
Yeah, why not? I was waiting for my opportunity to say who's Judkins, but we did get it, back on course with Judkins. So
Judkins, yeah. If it's in the prompter, I'll read it.
No, I'm just
yeah, why not? Just go ahead and add Williams there. This one from Adam. I lost Burrow in one league. I'm very sorry, about your loss there. Condolences. Jared Goff, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones are on waivers. How do people end up in these leagues where there are so many good quarterbacks on waivers? There are no quarterbacks in any of my waivers. That's just me getting a tiny rant out. I am jealous of everyone else's waivers. Moving on. Who would you feel is the best replacement 4 points passing per passing touchdown there? That's a hell of a list, isn't it?
Yeah, probably Jared Goff. I mean, you can make an argument. I just think that probably has the highest ceiling of any of them. Caleb Williams, if it's only 4 points per passing touchdown and Caleb's likes to run, maybe you can consider Caleb there. And Jordan Love doesn't really run, and that is still a pretty run-heavy offense and not a whole ton of passing volume, even though I've loved what I've seen from him so far. I'm going to go with Jared Goff.
I like Jared Goff there as well for those reasons.
Are you going Daniel Jones?
No, I mean, I'm loving Daniel Jones right now. See if you can get both. I don't know. I'm such a both person. Been told that's a Sagittarius thing, but I don't believe in any of that nonsense. I believe in magic, like Harry Potter. Anyways, this one from E. Smitty.
Do you believe in magic? Sorry.
This one from me.
That's a good way to lose viewers real quick, is to hear me sing.
Yeah, stop singing. We've got a lot of people tuning in right now with great questions. All right. These Smitty, I'm 0-2 in a 2 QB league. Daniels, Quest, Purdy out. Backups are Ward and Rattler. Running backs are Henderson, Monty, Brian Robinson Jr., and Connors. Merritt, Browning, and Mac Jones are on waivers. Who would you prioritize? What order? I'm kind of not mad about the phonetic spelling of this. It helped me a little bit because that was quite a long one.
Yeah, so I definitely going after both Browning and Mac Jones. If you have to prioritize one, definitely Browning, just simply because Burrow's not coming back for the next 3 months. So yeah, I'm going with Browning.
I mean, yeah, going with Browning because Burrow's got some time. And we can talk about this going into waivers next as well in terms of how I really value him. But Mac Jones is just a stopgap, so I'm not super excited there. I think for helping you in the immediate right now, Browning makes a lot of sense. And again, he does have Jamar Chase. But I feel like we can break that down a little bit better for you once we cover waivers coming up here. I'll do a couple more and then I will take a break on questions and jump straight to waivers because I feel like a lot of these are related. And if you guys haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to the Women of Fantasy Football channel. Like and subscribe while you're joining in so you don't miss anything. We'd really appreciate it. All right, this one from Kevin. It's a simple question. Should I trade T. Higgins?
Yes. Do you want me to add something to that?
No, I think that this can be a pretty quick one in terms of how it's a temperature check on this offense. We talked really quickly about how I feel like Jamar Chase is going to be quarterback proof. He's going to have a lot of volume. I'm more nervous about someone like T. Higgins and having that volume. Why not shop the market now and just see what's out there and available? Not sure you're going to get, a lot of bang for your buck right now. Maybe he has a decent weekend. Maybe you can move on from him and then you can sleep better at night, not worrying about him in your roster.
Yeah, he had the long touchdown too. So I mean, it's not like he's coming off of a horrible week, kind of similar to how he did in week number 1 after playing Cleveland. But yeah, I would be, depends on what you get in return, of course, a lot of context. But yes, I would be fully fine, trading and cashing out on T. Higgins right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna jump to this question really quick. I have a feeling I know who this is. This one from Ranger: is Mark Andrews droppable in 12-team league? I mean, Tucker Kraft is looking pretty amazing in terms of how you're ranking tight ends. Feels like there's volume out there elsewhere. Fannin for the Browns, also looking amazing. But I think here's the thing: as soon as you do, will he then start to do the stuff that you want him to do? I don't know.
He had a touchdown that, he had possession of the ball, 1-2 down, and ball got punched out because instead of securing it with his left hand, he kept stuck his arm out in the end zone. And it feels like something's off with Mark Andrews. I would say, depending on how, how condensed your bench is, and what your other options are, yeah, I'd be okay with it. I don't want to do that because I still think that this offense is going to put up all kinds of points.
Yeah.
And better days are ahead. But yeah, the volume's not there. So I would be okay with it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. I wouldn't do it because it just feels icky. But if you want to, Ranger, go ahead. And then I'll jump up to this one really quick.
He had a really rough start last year, and he bounced back and finished with like a career high 11 touchdowns. So my gut tells me not to, but depending on what your options are,
I'm okay with not starting him. I'm okay with benching him, but I don't know about dropping.
Me too.
Yeah. All right, we found a middle ground there. This one from Gustavo: Nico or ETN and Terry. So this is a trade: Nico for ETN and Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
Yeah. This feels like a yes. There's upside there. I'm not mad about it. All right. Let's jump straight over to waivers. Lots to cover. We've talked a lot about Daniel Jones. I think you guys can tell where I'm leaning in terms of volume. What I was shocked to see is that he's 17% rostered, according to fantasylife.com. And again, where are these leagues and where can I join them where there are waivers that have a plethora of volume available? I don't understand. I'm in the other percent that he's just nowhere to be seen. So it's not fair. Daniel Jones, if he's out there, he's a must add, especially if you're dealing with Joe Burrow, Brock Purdy, Jayden Daniels. If you're dealing with any of these, you've got to get a backup that's going to give you the consistency that he's at least given us so far in these first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, mentioning the name Daniel Jones, Michael Penix, Mac Jones, even Jake Browning, Cam Ward, like, any of those guys. You can
talk about them as a whole too. I mean, in terms of where you rank them, we can go through that way. Like Daniel Jones is a top list for me. In terms of the rest, I feel like Penix is there and kind of, I want to say flip-flop depending on the week for streaming with Mac Jones. Browning, I'm very nervous because he has so many rough games coming up. He's got at Minnesota, at Denver, home to Detroit, and then at Green Bay. That's just a slew of brutal defenses. So I'm a little bit more nervous there. But playing from behind, so volume.
Yeah, I would have it ranked Jones, Penix, Browning, and then Cam Ward and Mac Jones at the very end because he's just a stopgap.
Yeah, I think that tracks for me as well. I'm hoping that Cam Ward can shape up and look better rest of season. I mean, talk about, again, rookies that we're rooting for. I would love to see him get it together because another player that's on waivers out there right now is Alik Ayomanor, wide receiver for the Titans. I struggled with that name. I know you watched me. I could see your face like laughing at me. I was hooked on phonicsing this name. I'm trying my best. I'm just a girl. I'm trying. But yeah, in terms of usage, again, as someone who's only 8% rostered and you're looking at deep leagues looking for wide receiver 3 flex potential, you like someone that's seeing targets and seeing volume and it's only going up. So in terms of that, Ellick has that for you.
Yeah.
6 targets on Sunday as well, to tie with Calvin Ridley and Okonkwo. So he's getting usage, solid usage.
Yeah, and not to mention he's making tough contested catches too. So I think that Cam Ward has played better than the numbers suggest. And think about it, he's played against the Broncos in week number 1, the Rams in week number 2, and both of those have looked like pretty solid defensive units. I know the Broncos kind of struggled a little bit, but the Rams put it on the Texans in week number 1. So I really truly think that Cam Ward, his tape is better than his numbers suggest. So yeah, I'm fine with Io Manor. And then, where the conversation goes with Romeo Doubs and Cedric Tillman, or, Troy Franklin, Kayshon Boutte, like, I have it ranked. Io Manor is a little bit further down. Franklin's at the top of my list, personally.
Yeah.
And then, if Boutte is still available, he's actually at the very top of the list. Then it's Franklin, then Io Manor, Romeo Doubs, because it's like spin the wheel for the Green Bay Packers receivers, and then Cedric.
Seriously. Yeah, I think that's a good way to rank them as well. I did not have it in my bingo card that, Troy Franklin would be leading receptions the way he's doing for the Broncos, but he is just looking consistent and looking fantastic. 8 catches on 9 targets and a touchdown, 89 yards this weekend. I mean, you're not mad about that. And they're also a team that's going to be fun to watch going into the rest of the season. So I think I agree with you in terms of how you're ranking them.
Speculative add to on IR right now, Jalen Coker for the Carolina Panthers. We've seen some usage for Hunter Renfrow, of all people. Yeah. Xavier Legette, it's not coming together through the first 2 weeks.
I want it to.
I know, I do too, but it's not. And if it's not going to come together, Coker's going to come back and he's going to be that, I think slot option and kind of the 1A, 1B alongside T-Mac. So again, I know he's not going to be available for another 2 games, but he's a guy that maybe you can get ahead of the waivers on, whether it's this week or next week, stash him on your IR spot, and maybe you have a chance of getting a wide receiver 3, when the buys start hitting.
I mean, you're talking buys. I think this leans really well into our buy low, sell high. And we do have a question that is right on the top of our list that you wrote in terms of buy low, sell high. And Joshua wants to know, is Ashton Jeanty a buy low candidate? You have him written in our notes as a buy low. I would love to hear this after I did nothing but talk poorly about him to start the show off today, because I was just so mad. I was just mad at the Raiders. It's not your fault, Ashton. I was just mad about Brock.
Yeah, I mean, 19 carries for 38 yards, 2 yards per carry in week number 1. The touchdown kind of saved his day. Caught 3 passes. There were times where he's tough to get to the ground. It was even tough for Derwin James, who had him dead to rights on one of those receptions. But the yardage just isn't there because the rushing lanes, that offensive line, I think that they have a hard ceiling, Sam. And there's going to be some games where, they're going to have a little bit of an advantage up front, but then there's going to be games where they're just completely outgunned. And in those games, as great as Ashton Jeanty is, it's going to be very tricky. And then when you combine it with some of the struggles that I expect this passing game to have periodically throughout the year, even with Smith under center, you're going to see game scripts where Jeanty has only 11 carries for 43 yards. And Dylan Labe is on the field for some reason. And because he's a very good pass catching back and could probably play slot receiver on some teams out of New Hampshire. Anyway, I digress. My scouting background just won't let that go. Point of the matter is the volume will still be there for Ashton Jeanty, unlike some of the other rookie running backs. Better days are ahead, but you're going to have to just stomach the volatility. And if you can get him at a discount right now because of a slow start, I still believe he has top 10 upside at the position when it's all said and done in 2025.
Yeah. I have to keep reminding myself it's only week 2 in terms of how I'm judging our rookie running backs. I need to be less critical, but it's because
he is a load to bring down.
It is a lot. So he is a buy low candidate. I can understand why. Looking at their upcoming schedule at Commanders versus the Bears, at Colts versus Titans, Chiefs, there are some, semi-favorable matchups here. None that feel like outright wins. Would love to have seen them play the Dolphins, I would felt really good about that, but that's clearly not here. They've got a game against the Jaguars, though, so you've got some upside there. I do feel like there's some matchups that can pair well for him rest of season. His projections going into this week are for a half-point PPR, 13.1 fantasy points projected on fantasylife.com. With a floor of 6, though, so you're not super excited. It's just waiting days are ahead. If you can move him into your flex, I mean, this might be one of those situations where you're trying to stream more upside if you've got him. Want to get to this one because it goes into the buy low, sell high category. This one from Goodnight Julian. What do we do with Matthew Golden? Is he a stash or sell? What do you think? You mentioned briefly about the Packers rotation at wide receiver. This is just one of those rooms where it's like you want to have someone, and unless it's Tucker Kraft, who is it going to be? Because he seems to be the most consistent for us here. Is Golden someone that you are stashing, or are you selling depending on the matchup?
I think he is worth still stashing away. And we saw the snap count go from like 48% up to 59 from week 1 to week 2. That's encouraging. The 2 targets, not encouraging, because that's the second time in 2 weeks in a row that he's only seen 2 targets. And, obviously Tucker Kraft has been a stud through the first 2 weeks in this offense. But Jordan Love underthrew him on what should have been a touchdown. And he also then overthrew him and didn't put enough air under the ball on another deep shot. Yeah, I was hoping for more volume, Sam. I still think he is worth a stash. You can't start him. I'm not going to start him, even in deeper leagues, until we see that volume kind of jump up. And there's no guarantee with how good the Packers defense has been playing through the first 2 weeks that they're going to be in a lot of shootouts in 2025.
Yeah, no, I mean, talk about defenses to own. And if you walked away with the Packers defense, who would have thought? Not me, that they'd be one of the top defenses going into the rest of the season. But then again, that being said, we didn't know that Micah Parsons was going to be on this defense, a month before the season started. He didn't know he was going to be on the Packers defense until a week before. So sometimes it's just how things roll. Let's talk about more sell high candidates. Let's talk about Kenneth Walker. Again, someone that I feel like he did end up getting some usage here, but the Charbonnet usage is worrisome. And I don't know how I feel about having too many shares of Walker. Actually, don't have that many. 12 leagues, and I can't say I have Walker in any of them. But selling, if I had him, I would sell.
So for the second straight week, Kenneth Walker's snap share numbers are frightening. It actually went from 40% in week 1 down to 35% in week number 2. But he hit the explosive play, Sam. So when Walker does hit those home runs and create those explosive plays, it's going to look good. But good luck predicting when you're going to be able to get that production from Kenneth Walker with an offensive line that I still think is trying to figure things out moving forward. So I would take this opportunity to sell high because, a 105-yard rushing performance and a rushing score against Pittsburgh and, having 13 carries despite the limited snaps, I think that that's enough because people believe in his talent to still get something of like running back 2 type value. I just see the writing on the wall and it makes me nervous.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of just like one of those, it's almost like a beige flag. And sometimes I feel like people need to realize that beige flags are just red flags in disguise. And to your point, you're seeing it. We just need to help people with those different rose tinted glasses. Just whatever's going to help you see the flags. And we're seeing it. Got to be aware. I'm in agreement. I would sell on him as well. Another candidate that you marked as a sell candidate. Interesting to hear this, although I don't think I'm going to be shocked, especially because it tees up well to lead into a Thursday Night Football discussion. Tyreek Hill, you're listing as a sell high candidate?
Yes, because we know and everybody knows that this is a divorce that we see between the Miami Dolphins and Tyreek Hill. The signs are all there, Sam. It's about to explode at any given moment. And it was like a last-ditch effort to try to save the relationship by, you know, force feeding him 7 targets. And yeah, there were some nice moments. It's like when the couple knows they're about to break up and, hey, you know, I still caught 6 passes for 109 yards, but, you know, instead of hitting a wide open Tyreek Hill where he probably could have scored, it's like Tyreek knows that's not my dude because he airmailed it like 10 yards over his head. And you see him immediately come off the football field and frustrated. I would take this opportunity to jump ship on Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. There's also such early trade discussions about Tyreek Hill. And of course, top of the list you're seeing, at least that I've seen so far for trade candidates, are the Chiefs. And not shocking, my Steelers are candidates as well, because why wouldn't we be, considering we like to pick up lots of veterans to go into the season, and we're just I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on that. I'm not shocked by that rumor. I'm also, to your point, it did feel like forcing the issue. And it's just like, if you have to force things, you just have to let it go. And you have to I think that I agree. I feel like this feels like a parting of ways. There's a lot that's not right with the Dolphins as well. I have a lot of, you know, Devon Achane in different leagues, and he's probably the only one I feel confident owning right now in terms of anyone from this Miami offense. Everyone else I am so nervous about, and I don't really want to have anywhere near my roster. I have a lot of Ollie Gordon too, in terms of like running back depth in very deep dynasty leagues, but like I don't feel good. It just is an icky feeling.
You can't feel good. You can't feel good.
It's like gas station sushi. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, you'll get by on it. And you'll get by on 1 week of Tyreek Hill having a nice game, but
it'll cost you though.
Yeah, it's going to cost you if you're going to hold faith that Tyreek Hill is going to continue to produce 100-yard rushing or receiving games. So I'm out. I'm out on the Dolphins.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Dolphins and do a little preview of Thursday Night Football, because everyone, we like to cover a little bit of a recap of Monday Night Football. We like to talk waivers. We're going to continue to talk buy-sell candidates. Having this volume of questions has been fantastic. So every Tuesday, we'll be trying to get to every single question that we can. But we also really want to give you a tiny preview going into Thursday Night Football. And my main hot take is this is the game that's going to kick off the bad Thursday Night Football games for rest of season, because we've got the Dolphins in New York against the Bills. And I feel like it's going to be a bit of a snooze fest. And I'm starting, obviously, Josh Allen wherever I have him, but I'm also under the impression that he's likely not going to finish this game, only because they're not going to need him to finish this game. He's going to get some R&R, you know, some coach sidelining, hanging out, you know, kissing babies, shaking hands kind of situation. I just don't feel like the Bills are going to need to lay it on that thick to handily take care of the Dolphins.
100%. I mean, we saw the Miami Dolphins fall behind 12-0 in the first quarter to the New England Patriots. And obviously they fell behind to the Indianapolis Colts immediately.
Yeah.
The Patriots let them back in the game because the New England Patriots are not a great football team yet, but the Buffalo Bills are. And we saw what they can do to a divisional opponent who is a floundering, wounded duck in Justin Fields and the New York Jets. They jumped all over them, and they suffocated that offense from the jump. I could see them doing the same exact thing to the Miami Dolphins. Yeah. So yeah, I am thinking that the Bills are going to handle their business. Maybe not a huge day fantasy wise for Josh Allen, but for James Cook, yes, please.
It's a big James Cook day. Definitely love that. A lot of, Keon Coleman getting right and having some decent targets as well. I just feel like this is a peppering of targets everywhere, because I also don't think that Josh Allen's going to need to run as much in this game. I think he's going to be able to spread the ball around just enough to keep fresh legs for all of his offense and not need to overstrain themselves unnecessarily in this matchup. I'll throw this one up here. I agree with you, Andrea. Go Bills.
By the way, Josh Allen running off the football field with a nose injury, and then I don't know what they did on the sideline. Maybe they popped that thing back into place. And then him going back in and finishing the game. I love Josh Allen.
Yeah. Wait, who doesn't love Josh Allen? I mean, yeah, I think the main takeaways are where there's smoke, there's fire. Something's on fire for the Dolphins. Lots of concerns. There will definitely be some trade talk for them. And it's not hard to say that we're both going to be picking the Bills to win this one at home against the Dolphins.
Yeah, goes without saying.
Yeah.
Bills roll. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills? Chris Burnham?
Is that how it goes?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's what he used to say.
I am curious about jumping through one of those tables, though. I know that, in my ripe old age of 37, I would hurt something. It would not feel great on Monday, but I just want to experience it once. I think it'd be fun.
Well, when we were doing our previous show, the other part of our crew went to a Buccaneers-Bills game at Buffalo, and there was footage taken where somebody jumped on a flaming table and he caught on fire. It was extinguished very quickly, no injuries. But
I do like my hair. I wouldn't want to burn my hair.
Just make sure that the table's not on fire, Sam, when you jump through it. And you got to go, oh yeah, like Randy Macho Man Savage when you drop an elbow on it.
Dread, don't tell me to do it. I can't take a dare because I'll just do it. But thank you for that. We can do a really quick spotlight on our teams. Mine's gonna be very brief this week. Me and my Steelers, I'm nervous. We're going to Foxborough. The Patriots have had our number in years past. Will this Patriots team have our number? I hope not, because I would not like to be disgraced against this Patriots team, but I'm hoping we can come away with a win because last week was absolutely brutal.
I'm worried about the Patriots receivers being able to separate against that Pittsburgh secondary. I know it hasn't been what I expected from the Steelers defense, but
it should be a get right game for us. We need some very specific locker room talk heading out of this game of like, we are going to dial it in. We need that Remember the Titans perfection. Like there will be nothing else. I need that speech going in the locker room because
you will be perfect.
We'll be perfect in every way. We will not mess up on special teams. We will not miss tackles. We will not
drop
the
a
ball.
pass, you run a mile.
Yes.
You miss a blocking assignment, you run a mile. You fumble the football, and I will break my foot off in your John Brown hind parts. And then you will run a mile. Perfection. Let's go to work.
That's what I want on my Steelers. We'll see if I get it. And spoiler alert, I think that your Bucs are going to get the win against the Jets.
Yeah. I don't expect a big game from Mike Evans, though, against Sauce Gardner. Still staying away from him, which means more Emeka Egbuka.
To the moon. I really want to get to this segment before we sign off. We had so many questions. We actually went over our hour, so I appreciate everyone staying around. This is one of my new favorite segments that Tate gives us every week, Petty Parlays. And to lead us into it, I want to just give a quick shout out. I don't know if you guys follow Jen Piacenti, but she came out with Shark Bets. I'm wearing their merch today, kind of obsessed with it. It's an amazing app that she built. It is her baby and it's brilliant. If you love betting content, please check it out. You can download Shark Bets and it is free for the first 30 days. It's essentially like TikTok for betting. It's short film, audio content as well with good lines posted daily, instant alerts. It's a really fun app. I'm a little bit obsessed with the merch and I'm obsessed with Jen Piacenti because when it comes to sports betting, she knows her stuff. So check it out. Free for the first 30 days. If you don't love it, then you can cancel it. Risk-free, really. Just try it out. So I wanted to use that to go into our petty parlays because they are my new favorite thing because I love to make bets for the plot. So Tate, let's go into this. You've got the Giants versus the Chiefs as your first one. So what is the petty parlay you want to play this weekend?
Yeah, kids, count them with me. 1, 2, 3 leg parlay. I
hate you.
I have to do it every week. It's the Tater parlay of the day. That's how I lead in. And how I'm leading into this one, Sam, we spoke about relationships earlier.
We did.
And once upon a time, the defensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo, was subjected to the unfortunate situation where he was the interim head coach of the New York Football Giants back in 2017. Things went so poorly in that relationship, Sam, that Spags took the year off of coaching in 2018. Before he became the DC of the Kansas City Chiefs in 2019, and he is now recognized as one of the premier defensive coordinators in the NFL.
I believe that GOAT is, the term GOAT is associated with Spags quite often.
Well, it's appropriate because he's returning to New York. And I think he is petty enough to 7 or 8 years later go ahead and embarrass the New York Giants offense.
I like it.
Sam, I'm old enough to remember. I get it. Russell Wilson cooked for over 400 yards passing, and it was, big day from Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson. I am old enough to remember his debut with the New York Giants, though, where they generated just 231 total yards against the Washington Commanders. They posted a league low 6 points with no touchdowns. So I see the secondary, even though a little bit banged up for Kansas City. I think the offensive line, while they did a good job against the Dallas Cowboys, I see Spags dialing up all kinds of looks. So the petty parlay, take your pick between under on Russell Wilson passing yards, because we already talked about. Brian Daboll's already flirting with Jackson Dart at some point, because he put him in while Russell Wilson was having like a career game. Yeah. And just for him to go in and run a couple QB options, I'll take the under on passing yards. I don't think he's going to top 160 yards passing in this contest for Russell Wilson. If you want to do team sacks too, I think they probably sack Russell Wilson or Jackson Dart 4+ times. That's where I'm going. Petty parlay, Spags, defense, putting it on the New York Giants. Moving on to Houston.
Yep. Next one, you've got Houston versus the Jaguars. Interested to see how this is a petty parlay.
Yeah, Houston, you may have a problem. Your offense is really struggling to find anybody other than Nico Collins to be a producer at the wide receiver position. Well, just so happens that you brought in a former Jacksonville Jaguar in Christian Kirk this offseason. I know Kirk is dealing with an injury, so you are going to have to continue to monitor the injury report a little bit. But I could see a ho-hum day at the office, Sam, if he is able to get back on the football field with that hamstring injury. 5 receptions, 50 yards, and a score against the Jags. Now, if Kirk doesn't play, take Nico Collins. I'll go ahead and say his big week is going to be against this Jags secondary, which have shown signs of improvement, but they've also played against a backup quarterback last week and against Bryce Young and the hapless Carolina Panthers. On to Tampa Bay, Sam. Fire the cannon.
Yes. I mean, this is totally teeing up well for your Bucs. I would love to hear this petty parlay.
I'm going to go real petty. And I'm not going to go to the offensive side of the football, Sam. And I know you expect me to do that.
I do. But I do know how you like defense.
Yeah.
All right.
How about the guy that was traded to the New York Jets last offseason? Got into a bit of a contract spat, just casually took off the first month of the season and, produced 1 sack, I think, for the New York Jets, and Hassan Reddick.
Okay.
And look, if Justin Fields is on the field, pun intended, then he holds on to the ball quite a bit and is capable of getting sacked. Tyrod Taylor, I like to think that he holds the ball too. And I think that Hassan Reddick wants to go ahead and make sure that he just sticks it to the organization because he didn't want to be there. They kind of played hardball with him, and he wants to show him what's what. So I'm going to go 1 sack for Hassan Reddick. That's our 1, 2, 3 leg parlay for week number 3.
I like it. I love to end on a defensive petty parlay as well, because it's something that I feel like when you're placing your bets and you're trying to find some little upside, it can be kind of fun to throw a defensive one in there just because, it's a good time. Who doesn't love defense? Everyone knows I love IDP. So.
Spags and
defense Reddick. Heavy. I'm down.
I was really struggling to find a lot of players that switch places offensively against, their former teams. I didn't really have a lot of options, so I got a little creative with it.
You know what? I do love that about you. You're always creative when it comes to petty parlays. Yeah. Appreciate it. Well, thank you everyone so much for tuning in to this latest episode of Sideline Banter on the Women of Fantasy Football channel. Like I said, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Women of Fantasy Football channel on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. Or if you listen over on Club Fantasy, make sure you guys are liking and subscribing there as well. Tate, any final words for the fam as we head into week 3?
Inconspicuous Panda said, is Danny Dimes the real deal MVP candidate? No. I like him, but not an MVP candidate. Outside of that, kids, stay patient with those rookie running backs. Like I said last week, don't start them, but don't panic. Don't drop them quite yet. And until next time, everybody. Later, says Tater.
I love that. Yeah, I'm high on Danny Dimes, but I definitely that's a little bit too spicy for me. But thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. We will get to your questions next week. Good luck in week 3, and we will see you next Tuesday for week 4.